You are listening to the Shopify Solutions Podcast, a podcast for Shopify store owners that brings you concrete examples on how to build and grow your e-commerce brand. Your host is Scott Austin. He owns a Shopify agency called Jade Puma. In this podcast, Scott will share his e-commerce insights and best practices with you.
Hey everyone, Scott Austin here, and for this week's podcast, we have a guest who's a brand owner from Japan, and I'm going to let him introduce his brand, Bahzad Trinos from Wonderlooper. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Wonderlooper?
Yeah, that's right. So my name is Bahzad Trinos, and I'm the co-founder of Wonderlooper. We founded it. We founded this company along with my wife, Risa Saito, just a couple of years ago, actually during the pandemic. And we had our regular job, which we were working for a denim company, and we just found ourselves with a little bit of extra time. And it started off as a small part-time chain stitch embroidery customization service where we were taking people's t-shirts or their items and we were embroidering designs or their names on these pieces. And it went from we were kind of embroidering these generic blank t-shirts for people, and we thought, well, maybe we have a lot of experience in the fashion retail world, apparel world, production world. Let's just make some of our own t-shirts. So that way our chain stitch embroidery that we do, which is so beautiful and nice, could match the quality of the t-shirts that we are putting them on. And being obsessive types, we went from trying to source and make sort of a basic t-shirt to going all the way to making some of the craziest t-shirts and knitwear available on the market today.
Yeah, I love the fact that your embroidery was so good that no t-shirt was good enough for it, so you had to make a t-shirt worthy of your product. That's an interesting space to be in. And so that sounds to me like your brand is more luxury or high end. Is that accurate?
Yeah, we're definitely in a space where you're paying over $100 for a t-shirt.
Yep. I would call that high end. Yes. How did you decide that this was the space you wanted to be in for this brand, right? Did it start with the embroidery first and then you decided on the t-shirts, or where did you get the inspiration to go and try to, make a t-shirt to the level that had never been made before? That's a pretty high bar, right? And a pretty audacious, goal.
So previous to Wonderlooper, my wife and I, we work for a denim company, and in this space we also make artisanal craftsman level denim products. So all the denim that we would make and produce was here in Japan on old machines that have been running for basically the old machines that were making denim the original way. And I could, it's kind of a sloppy way of explaining it, but I have a live stream that we do literally 2 hours a week every week where we talk about denim. So like we're very obsessive about fabrics and craftsmanship and how things are made. And we do have an audience that follows us that knows that we are these obsessive types. So for us to make a t-shirt, it really only had to go in one direction, and that was sourcing the best materials, the most interesting machines to make these t-shirts on. In fact, the t-shirts that we make are made on these old knitting machines that are over 100 years old, and they make a fabric that is lightweight and airy and stretchy, and it's unlike any modern machine today. But the problem is that they're so old that they also knit at a very, very slow pace. It takes about an hour to make 1 meter of fabric, and that basically means one t-shirt an hour, which is far from mass production, but it is an art and a craft in itself to keep these machines running. And so there are people who are interested in those fine details, and then we also go into the details of where we source our cotton. We're very particular about it, and so these are coming from basically the artisanal world of cotton, where they're coming from a single farm, organically grown, and we can go into many of the details there as well. But these little things, and while it's not, I would say, the most mass market thing in the world, there are people out there who are just as obsessive about detail as we are. So we create products for these kinds of people.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I would assume that your brand is a very important part of building that e-commerce experience, right? It's not just building the best product, which you're definitely doing, but you also have the best brand to go along with that.
Sure. I mean, everything that goes with the brand, whether it's the stories that we share on our social media. We have I would say, a pretty strong community that we grow through our Instagram. We do YouTube, we do live stream. So we try to do our best to educate our fan base, so that they know more about the products that we make and basically can see the process unfold, before their eyes.
Yep. Yep. So how many different, you mentioned you're doing, videos and live streams and stuff like that. How many different forms of content are you doing? Are you doing video? Are you doing, long form copy? What types of content are you putting out there?
Yeah, so we do Instagram, so photos, short videos, that type of stuff. I think we do YouTube. We do two types of YouTube content. So there's product driven content. So if we're doing a release for a sweatshirt or a t-shirt or whatever it is that's coming out, we make a breakdown video of essentially all the details about this product, from how it's made, where the cotton comes from, what's special about it, that type of thing. So you can watch a video, learn absolutely everything about that product, and if it's for you, then you might go out and purchase it from our website or through one of our retailers. And then we also host live streams where we engage with our community. We answer questions. So sometimes customers have questions about what size should I buy, what's so special about this type of construction versus that type of construction. Where does the cotton come from? Have you ever considered this? So sometimes it's not only just an education thing that we do for our customers, but it's also sometimes just a brainstorming thing that we do with our customers, because they give us instant feedback on the spot. And they'll tell us the things that they like about our products. They'll tell us, have you considered making this, that, or the other thing? And sometimes through these live interactions, we might come up with ideas for future products. So we try to do a lot of different things, and the live streams usually run for an hour to 2 hours.
Oh, that's incredible. I always tell my clients that any opportunity they have to have a two-way conversation with their audience, their customers, is absolute gold. And it's really hard in the online space to do that, but you've actually embraced the onlineness with the live stream and have that dialogue going back and forth. That's most brands should be doing the same thing you're doing. I think it's really well done. So with Wonder Looper, and you said you got started during the COVID time frame. Was this the first e-commerce store that you owned the brand and made all the decisions for, or had you done that in your previous stores also?
Well, this is our first brand that we owned completely, but my wife and we also managed other companies. So, we've built out e-commerce spaces before, several websites, several brands that have been quite successful.
Yep, yep. So when you came to the Wonder Looper decision to be on an e-commerce platform, was it any decision for you? Or was it just a no-brainer? Shopify is the way to go.
No brainer, Shopify is the way to go. I remember e-commerce pre the Shopify days, where you had to have a developer and they'd build a website and they'd build some I would say crappy back end for you, which hardly worked. And if your server goes down or something happens, poof, your website's done. And that literally happened to us before. And I just remember being like, okay, what do we do now? I discovered Shopify, and we had our website back up and running within days, working properly, and just the smoothness of it all. So I've been using Shopify for well over a decade, and absolutely no brainer. That's the way to go.
Yeah, yeah. And well, now that I think about it, I've been using Shopify since 2013, so it's over a decade now for me too. And for me, it was the same thing. We thought we were gonna have to build our own e-commerce platform for a startup that I was working at, and all of a sudden we realized, oh no, someone's done this before, and we can just jump on board their cloud-based service and not have to build any of this.
$30 or $20 a month. How much better? What more can you ask for?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's wonderful. So in the Shopify decision, that's an easy one for you to make. Another big tool in an e-commerce platform is going to be your email system. And what did you choose for that? And what was your decision making process there?
Well, I've used many. I've kind of jumped around, but I would say over the past 6 years, we've been using a platform called OmniSend, and I use that for the other companies that I work with, and it was no brainer to use it for Wonder Looper. I've used other ones in the past, and I just remember when there was this sort of Shopify, I don't want to name names, but other email commerce platforms, there was this. Yeah, I mean MailChimp. So I don't want to disparage anybody, but there was this cutoff where there was this non-native connection going on, and it was like this rush to Well, you could either figure out how to use it now with a connector, or jump over to a intuitive, already connected service. And I remember trying to figure out this, new connection thing. And as comfortable as I am in the e-commerce space, I like things that just work. So if they don't just work, I don't want to use it. I don't want to have to dig around. Everything just needs to work intuitively, easily, because I have other things to do. So I switched over. OmniSend had a direct link. It brought in all of my information very easily. We had a significant amount of email subscribers, so we were able to leverage our the amount of subscribers we were bringing over to get some good pricing, and it's worked flawlessly since the beginning. So I've used it with our other companies. When it came to Wonderlooper, no brainer, bring it over. I already know how to use it, and it works great.
So you don't have to worry about that learning curve. You've already gone through all that, and you know the feature set. You're comfortable with it. Yeah, because I'm a Klaviyo person myself, and I have not used Omnisend, and I would assume that they're fairly similar, right? Omnisend, I sure has flows and campaigns and gathers all your customers. Does it give you good reporting and a lot of feedback on what's working well and what's not working well on your emails?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could definitely dig into individual campaigns. You can A/B campaign things. So there's a lot of depth in Omnisend if you want to get in depth with it. If you don't, they've got like a basic splash screen at the start. It tells you, here's how many subscribers you got this week. Here's your the performance on your last campaigns. So you could get a quick overview of things. But if you want to deep dive, you can do that as well.
And how important is email in your mix? For most of my clients, I always tell them that your goal with email should be 25 to 33% of your revenue. One fourth to one third of your revenue should be, attributable to e-commerce or to email. Is that, is your business at those levels, or is it significant for you?
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have those numbers offhand because for me, we are a company that, we have products available on our website, but our products tend to be sold out. So we'll do launches. So here's the new product that comes out. And while I expect the inventory to last a while, it doesn't. It just kind of sells through in a day or two, and well, then I don't have much inventory on my website. So that's sometimes a big challenge for us to constantly keep stocking things. So our email is often used as, for me, it's about community building. And so while there is Instagram and Facebook and things like that, I find that those platforms, they have a lot more control over your audience than an email platform does. When Instagram or Facebook decides to change the algorithm in terms of what they want to show your audience, the people who've already subscribed to you, who are interested in your content, sometimes, in fact, most of the time, your content is not reaching your audience. You can see in your own analytics that it might only reach, up to 10, maybe 15% of your audience, unless you want to spend, a lot of money on marketing. And I'm a small company, and quite honestly, I don't want to spend that much money on marketing. I spend no money on Instagram or Facebook. I just don't do that. I put my money on email, because with email marketing, if you signed up for my email, that email is going into your inbox. It is reaching its audience. So we use email in a lot of ways to keep customers informed with what we're doing, what's going on, what events are coming up, what's in the production pipeline. So it's more of a newsletter that we send out to our customers to just keep them informed with what we're doing. And I think it works great.
So you're not doing as much as, like, we're coming up on Labor Day weekend here in the United States. So you're not doing like Labor Day weekend or Christmas sales as much. It's more, one to many publishing on a calendar of, the old school newsletters, right? Which, you send out once a month, whatever the frequency is, which used to be a good best practice, and most people have gotten away from. But I like what you're saying in that, in your brand, because you're sold out most of the time, you're not trying to generate demand. The demand is already there. It sounds like what you're doing is you're building the brand instead of generating demand with your emails.
Yeah, I think so. Building community. I think for me, that's the most important thing, because, number one, your community is your customer base. they're not always going to buy everything, but I find that the people who are engaged with us they're very interested in the process, and they're interested in fabrics, and they want to learn. So, you know, you can come, you could learn for free. If you want to buy something, you can have something. If you want to buy something because you like us, you want to support us that way, that's cool too. But I try not to be a company that's always trying to sell you something. I would rather you like what we make. Here it is. It's available for you. I'm not here to convince you of anything. It's just, we make good stuff. If you like it, here it is. Here it's available for you. And alongside that, here's a lot of information about the kinds of products that we make.
Well, and what I love about that is, one of the things I always say is that if you don't tell your story, then your customers or your advocates can't repeat it, right? Because people love to tell stories. When they show a great product, they love to tell the story behind that product, whatever that story is. And it sounds like you guys are doing a really good job in telling that story and how unique your products are, how the machinery is old and therefore it limited supply, and that makes these even more valuable and rare and scarce, and they understand all that, which probably means when they're out, wearing your clothing, they're telling their friends those kind of stories because you've shared them with them, and that gives you that word of mouth marketing, which increases your demand.
Absolutely. Sometimes I'll see, there's message boards for like this genre of apparel. It's kind of like, better menswear. And every now and then, I actually, way back in the day, the way I got into fashion and apparel was through message boards. I was interested in dressing better, and I'm talking like the late 90s, when this is a pretty early time for a lot of this stuff, where if you wanted to learn something, you had magazines, but always didn't have all the information, so you had to go online, and online you didn't know who was saying what, so it was a lot of word of mouth and rumors, and so you had to weed all that information out. And I learned a lot about better menswear, construction, and all these processes through these forums. These forums are still very active today, and nowadays, I would say that there are a lot of people who are way better informed, and I certainly try my best to dispel a lot of rumors and things that are just incorrect. I'll go in there, and I'm still active on the forums, and I talk about it, and I'll see people talking about our products online, and I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. But that I could see somebody in Germany or somebody in the United States or wherever on their local forum talking about our products, and how much they like them, and what they've learned about them. So it's pretty cool to see how that all works and plays out.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the email side, are there flows or campaigns you've done that have been the ones that are the best for you, that have gotten you the most return, that you keep reinvesting in? What are the best practices? Let's say two or three of them in email that you've learned and execute.
Yeah, I think there's two kind of pretty basic, and I would hope obvious ones. Is like you have like your cart, abandoned cart flow. So somebody's checking something out, the abandoned cart email. Somebody's checking something out on the website, and they decide for whatever reason that now wasn't the right time to make that purchase. So we have a flow where if you've left something in your cart, you might get an email from us saying, hey, there's something in your cart, it's still available, check out while you can, because supplies are limited, that type of thing. So that's always been a great flow for us. Another one that has always worked really well for us is customer feedback. You build your brand on customer feedback. So if you can build out a flow that says, hey, if you like your product, you like the product experience, why don't you leave us a review? And if you didn't, or if you're not satisfied with the product, send us an email. Let us know what's wrong with it. Let us know what was wrong with your experience, so we can try to, make things right with you. So that's always been great. And that way, if somebody isn't happy with something, we can find a way to remedy that. I want customers to be happy with their product. So, or their experience. Maybe they had a problem with shipping. Maybe they had a problem with, the way the navigation of the website works. So that also allows us to, improve in a lot of ways.
It sounds to me like you're doing something sophisticated in there. It sounds like what you're doing in your send, give us a review email is, hey, we would love to get a 5-star review from you. If for any reason, you haven't had the best experience, please respond to me now so we can answer that. Are you trying to have them give you any negative feedback outside of the reviews?
I mean, look, I would prefer that the negative feedback came in, directly to me so that we can try and rectify that. Um, because sometimes, you might see a negative review online, you reach out to a customer and you say, "Hey, I wish you had told me about this because I would have fixed that problem for you." And, you end up fixing that problem for the customer and they're always, not maybe not always, but oftentimes they're like, "Oh, thank you so much for reaching out, yada yada, you really made my day." But they don't change the review. So the review stays online for other people to see, and like that could maybe be a negative, a negative towards you, even though that situation was rectified and the customer ended up being happy anyway. So I would much rather deal with the problem and leave the customer with a good experience, and whether or not they want to post about that experience later on is up to them. But you know we on our shop app, for example, we only have 5-star reviews, and like there people are certainly free to post whatever they want. We don't so uh based on that, I mean, I think we've been doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, and one of the things that I have found that works really well when you're trying to get feedback from customers in email is if you make the email a plain text not an HTML but just plain text email, then people actually, because for a lot of my clients, we actually set one up right after they make their first purchase. It looks like it's coming directly from the owner, and people respond to that like the owner sat down that morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, and wrote that personally out for them right then. They're like, and they get the best feedback in those emails. Every time I tell a client that this is going to happen, they laugh at me because they don't believe it. And then a week later, they're like, it is fantastic to do that relationship building stuff you're talking about. A nice little text only with your name on the bottom. You'd be surprised at how much engagement you'll get from that.
Yeah, when things look real or they are real, people engage with it a lot better. So I think that's a good idea.
And just less businessy and less brandy kind of stuff, a little more personal. So you mentioned reviews. Are you using Omnisend for review, or do you have a separate review platform?
No, that's Omnisend, and then that'll go on like a Google review or like a shop review.
Yep. So you're using Shopify Shop, which always gets confusing to me. Yep. And is there any like campaign you've done in the past that has worked well, or like what's an experience you've had where you've learned from it, like we're not going to do that again in email?
Um, our campaigns, like I said, are mostly newsletters. So the vast majority of the emails that we send out, and we send out one newsletter a week. And the only exception to that is like if we have a drop. So newsletters we typically send out on Fridays, and so if we have a product release, usually that might happen on a. It actually varies dependently, but the email will be maybe one day before saying, "Hey, this product's going to drop at this time on this date," and so be aware. Just because our products tend to sell it very fast, and then we'll send an email right when that product launches. So uh, I they when you look at the analytics, like those types of emails tend to get a lot of sales generated from them, but whether that email is the real cause of the sale or not, I'm going to go with it's kind of inconclusive. I think a lot of people they've had their decisions already made. That email didn't make the decision for them. It might have reminded them, or that was just their way of clicking through to the website. But we don't have we're not heavy on sales. I do find that sometimes you'll see websites where sign up, get 10% off. They're very heavy with the deals, but I find that those kinds of things are just built into the price of the product. So certainly some customers are going to be enticed by that. Hey, I'm going to save 10% off. Yeah, I guess, but that 10% was already factored in. So we don't do that with our products. Our products are pretty they're priced accordingly. We're not very big with the discounts. We might do I tell our customers the only discount we'll do for the entire year is Black Friday, and so we'll do a Black Friday deal, and that's it. Aside from that, the price is the price, and hopefully we have inventory on the website when Black Friday comes around. But we try not to heavily market in that way. And so, it's kind of hard to say, which campaign is generating the most sales. Is it because I did a flash sale, or is it because I offered a buy one get one? We don't really do that on this store. So yeah.
Yeah, attribution is always a fun one where, like you're saying, maybe email gets 15% credit, not 100% credit, and everything else adds up and does it. But because if you add up all your attributions, it's way over 100%, right? Every platform says, "Oh, I'm 50% of your revenue," and you got 4 platforms, it's 200% of revenue, kind of thing. And there is definitely overlap there, but I find those directional. And I noticed you have a drop coming in a couple of days. I was on your website earlier today, and you're doing the email signups already where they can get notified when that drop comes. And I would imagine that the conversion on those for you for email address collection is pretty good.
Yeah, those are pretty good. We OmniSend does have a functionality where, um, say something's out of stock, you can sign up and it'll send you an email letting you know when that item has come back. We don't utilize OmniSend's version of that. We use another platform through Shopify. I actually don't even remember the name of the app, but there's a lot of apps for like back in stock notifications. Just because the app that I use on Shopify is a little bit more robust in terms of its reporting. I can actually see what people have signed up for, and that also gives me a good indication of what's popular, what sizes I need to carry more of. Because, for example, if I'm doing a production run of something, it's not an even split down the road from small, all the way to double extra large. Your mediums and your larges tend to be, skewed higher in terms of what you're selling, but how much more, if I carry, like 5 smalls, these are just small numbers, but say I carried like 5 smalls, 10 larges, 10 extra, 5 smalls, 10 mediums, 10 larges, 5 extra larges, and 5 double extra larges, and I sell everything out, I don't know what I didn't sell, right? So those back in stock notifications, when people sign up for that, it allows me to see, hey, you know what, there's a lot of people signing up for extra large, maybe I need to carry more extra larges down the road. So I would say that investing in a good back in stock platform allows you to not only try to get those sales back when those items do get back in stock, but it also allows you to better manage your inventory so that you have the right things. Now, OmniSend does have a smaller version of that where they'll simply just send an email out to the customer letting them know that something's back in stock. The reporting part isn't quite there yet, but I would say that the one thing that I do like about OmniSend is that their customer service and their access to actual humans exists. And that was something that I didn't have with some of the other platforms where, I was always sent off to go read the documentation on the website and try to figure out your problem here. Or there's a forum where you and other confused people can talk about how confused you are. No, thanks. I like talking to a person, and the person will take my feedback and say, hey, you know what? A lot of people have been asking for this, so we're going to add this to like the development schedule, and we're not promising that it's going to come out right away, but we recognize that it is a feature set that people want. And I've definitely talked to the OmniSend people. I've sent them screenshots of the types of things that I want, and they said, yeah, man, we're going to build that out. And I have to say that from my use of OmniSend over time, some of the functionality that maybe wasn't there when I first started is there now, or maybe it wasn't as robust as it was when I first started with them, but it's more robust now. And that's through feedback and actually being able to tell them what you need, what works and what doesn't work. And it's quite interesting because I remember when I started with OmniSend, they had all kinds of features that I wasn't getting with the other guys. And I was so excited. And, it's like 5 minutes ago, I didn't know this stuff existed. And now I'm complaining about how this doesn't work perfectly. And that, to be fair, I wasn't complaining that much. It was working great. But, they do upgrade and they are constantly building upon their platform. So that's another thing that I really like about them.
Well, I'm impressed that in a Shopify app, you actually get to, communicate with a human, because that's rare in the Shopify app world. The Shopify world is kind of the Wild West, and there's small teams and there's large teams. We actually, at Jade Puma make a couple apps, and we like to give good support, but it's hard, right? But you not only do you talk to a human, but you're actually having a conversation. It sounds like, and that's even rarer. that they actually listen to what you're saying instead of just giving you their best practices.
Yeah, I would have quarterly calls with my rep, and like I could access them anytime. So if I wanted to have had a problem, I had a question, I could schedule a call with them, and we'd have a call like we're having today, and actually talk out the problem. Or another great thing that they would provide was you know, in these quarterly calls, they'd also go through best practices and show you how to use things. So like if they find that through their network of all their retailers that they work with, if there's something that really works, here's what a lot of people said really works. Here's what we would suggest you give it a try, because we've seen it work across the email marketing world. Maybe it's going to work for you. So I always really appreciated that they didn't just provide a platform, but they also showed me how to do things.
Yep. Yeah, that is super rare in the Shopify ecosystem to get that level of support. That's nice. Now, and we were talking about the drop. Do you, when you have a new drop come out, do you let customers know what the actual quantity counts are? Do you create that sense of urgency, saying we're down to our last 10 or anything like that, or is it not exposed to them?
I would say that sometimes we do. Like if I have a production run of 300 t-shirts, then we'll say there's only 300, so get them. Sometimes it's not, like for example, like we might restock a t-shirt, so our restock is X amount, and like I don't feel like it's really necessary to announce, oh, there's only this many of this t-shirt, because I'm gonna probably get a couple. I will restock that in 8 weeks anyway, so it's not really something I don't want to create false urgency where there doesn't need to be. If something is limited and it takes me 1 year to restock this item, I'll say it takes 1 year for us to restock this item, because there's the cotton itself is very rare. The machines are slow, and even then, there's only so many of these machines operating, and getting a production slot is difficult. So if it's going to take a year to get this again, I'm not saying it's never going to be available again as your one time only to buy it. It's just, if you want it now, you kind of got to get it now. But if you otherwise you got to wait a long time to get it again.
Yeah, what I like that I'm hearing you say is, it's what I call aggressive marketing, right? There's a lot of brands that do aggressive marketing, and the synonym for aggressive marketing is flat out lying, right? And it amazes me how many brands just flat out lie. And I just can't stand that. But that is what it is. And it sounds like you're the opposite side of that.
Oh, I don't want to lose trust with these people. These are my customers, right? And so I have to be open. I have to be honest. If something is rare, it's rare. If it's not rare, I'm not going to tell you that it is. And you're absolutely right. There are a lot of companies out there that, oh, only 5 left. There's 12 of these in shopping carts waiting. Oh, save 50% off. I'm like, you always save 50% off. Like, there's just so many BS deals on websites going on. And certainly they do it because it probably works, but that's just, that's just not me. So I'm not going to do that kind of stuff.
Well, I do think it works, right? I just think it doesn't work for the long term, right? Those companies are selling products; they're not building a brand. Is the way I think about that. Where you're trying to build a brand and have a customer lifetime value of X amount, from each of your customers over time. Where they're just trying to clear their shelves as quick as they can on a given week, and not thinking about what their brand's going to be in a year's time. And that in your drops, I'm just are you only sending one email? It sounds like you're only sending one email, and I'm surprised by that for 2 reasons. One is I find you want to send this, even if it's the same email. We just announced our drop twice in one day at least, just because not everybody reads every email and all that kind of stuff. And the other thing I would do is a day later or 2 days later, if the sales are rapid, would say, hey, we are selling out of these quick. If you were waiting for this drop, get it now, because it is going to be a while before they come back in stock.
Right. I mean, we build up to the release in the sense that, through our newsletters, we're telling people what we're working on, where it is in the production line, when they can expect it. So, there's an email saying it's coming out tomorrow, but if you've been reading the newsletters, you've probably read already that it's coming out on that date. And like you said, not everyone reads everything, and so like sometimes there's a little bit of reused information in one newsletter to the next newsletter. I try to keep it fresh, but sometimes you just gotta drive the point home that this product is going to be coming out on this date, and you say it in one email, and then in the next email you mention it again, you mention it again. So by the time it's actually comes out, they know about it. And then the next newsletter I'll say, okay, well, it was a great launch, very successful, we were very busy packing up all your orders. Maybe we'll post on Instagram showing us packing the orders, or like showing the shipment is FedEx picked it up and it's ready to go, and we annoyed our FedEx guy because there was so much stuff to pick up that day. So that'll all end up in the newsletter, and they'll hear about it one way or another.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because you have that weekly heartbeat with them where you're checking in and telling them the status. Yeah, that I hadn't thought about that. That makes total sense. Now, because you're sending out these weekly emails, what do you do to keep people from unsubscribing, and how do you get people to subscribe in the first place? How do you build your list, and how do you do you have any best practices on maintaining that list?
Yeah, building my list is, when you make a purchase, people will often sign up for the email marketing. Of course, when you go to our website, a pop-up will show up. We have, a link on our social media, on our Instagram. Like if you go to our, we use Linktree in our, if you click on our bio, there's a link, and then, there's like a newsletter sign up there. And, when we talk about anything, we make a YouTube video, we say, hey, you know what, sign up for our newsletter, because there's great information in there. We give you not only, it'll tell you the latest product information, but it'll also just kind of give you an inside scoop of what's going on. And then, as far as retaining customers there, I try not to bombard them with too much, buy. People, they don't want to, their email boxes are filled with that already. And it's like, whether it's from like, the electronics retailer or the clothing store or whatever, there's a lot of those emails. So if you create an email that's a little bit more informative, here's some information, here's some news for you. It's more like you're reading the news article. Maybe you're on your way to work, you're having a coffee on your break, and this is some information that you're interested in receiving, rather than being just I don't know what the word is, but a receiving end of an ad.
Yeah, you're not selling all the time. You're actually joining them in an interest that they have and having a conversation with them, versus a one-way communication like buy from me so I can make money. And it goes back to the part of the respect that your brand has for your customers, which is showing through in everything that you're doing. I like the fact that you said you have the Linktree and the YouTube. Do those channels actually get you new email addresses, or does the collection there work?
It's hard to tell from YouTube because there's no direct. But I would imagine that they work. Sometimes it's like deep diving into these things and trying to tweak them perfectly. I don't know. We're pretty constant with our messaging, letting people know. If you want to, there's a lot of ways that you can experience our brand. Whether it's just Instagram, you see the pictures, you engage, you like, you leave a comment, you don't leave a comment, that's fine. Then if you're a little bit deeper, you're watching our YouTube videos, you're subscribed to our YouTube channel. It's not a huge channel, but it's not like a fun channel in the sense that like it's not general entertainment. It's not like one of those kind of channels where it's educational, and the live streams are a two-way communication. So our YouTube channel is growing slowly but surely, but it's also a very dedicated audience. And I would say that within that dedicated audience, it's also the newsletter people. So it's I'm not trying to cast a wide net. I'm trying to cast a net for people who are very tied in and interested in what we're doing.
People that care a lot about their clothing more than the average person, so they're going to engage with you to understand all those details that the average user would not appreciate. Those details, it sounds like.
Sure. I mean, but also like, right. I'm not like, there are, even on our YouTube videos, someone will say, well, I'd never spend $100 on a t-shirt. And I'm like, great. I'm not trying to tell you that you need to or that you should. I'm just telling you that this is how this product is made, and that all of that justifies the price. It's not a cheap t-shirt. It's a very expensive t-shirt. But if you want something that's made with all of these details, Well, then, unfortunately, that's what it costs. And this is not a mass market product. So if you want something very special, very niche, this is the price. But even then, I think it is a good price for what it is. There's always things that are expensive in life, but for what it is, it might be a good price.
Yep. Yep. Do you have like a way that you explain that to customers, like the Ferrari of T-shirts? Is there some little trick you use to try to get that across?
Sometimes I try not to make, Ferrari. I don't know. Is it a good equivalent? Is a Ferrari a good value?
Well, I actually think you're more like the Bentley of T-shirts, right? It's classier instead of flashier kind of thing.
Maybe those Bentleys lose their value real fast. I hear. I don't know. I don't. We drive a '98 car, so like I don't know. We're very humble people in a lot of ways, but I'm not trying to sell somebody on, if you buy this, you're gonna look rich. I'm not a luxury brand in that respect. It's more of an appreciation for the craft. And if there's no logos on any of our products. If you wear one of our t-shirts, it's one of our t-shirts, but the average person is never gonna know it's one of our t-shirts. So we try to keep branding on the very low end. The only thing that you'll see is like our inside tag is kind of big, but who sees the inside tag of your shirt? Only you. So it's all for you. And yeah, I mean, it's I during our live streams, I actually rail a lot on the luxury industry because I find that they provide little to no value for their customers. And while some or many of their products are well made for the price, they're just, that's not what you're paying for. And I definitely try to educate people on that, and where it's like, if the logo or the brand has a value to you, then certainly, if you're willing to pay for it, you're willing to pay for it. And those companies, they're doing great. They're making lots of money. Maybe I'm doing something wrong, but I'm not interested in trying to create value off of a name alone. I want people to see the value is in the product and the craft, and that involves a lot of storytelling, which is difficult to do. Whereas if you're trying to sell people on Flash, that's a lot easier. If you have a famous celebrity in an ad campaign and you have the money to do it, you hire the celebrity, you hire the stylist, you take them to a beautiful location, beautiful photos, you've got all the money to spend it on marketing, put up billboards everywhere. Yeah, you could turn an average product and make it look like it's gold. It's not hard, in the sense that it takes, the only problem there is money. You have the money to do that. Some people do, some people don't. But it's very hard to train a lot of staff and say, hey, well, this sweater is beautiful because it comes from cashmere from this region, and not that region, because this region has better cashmere for this, that, and the other reason. And you can explain all the way from the way that it's collected to its spun to its dyed, and why the dyeing process is much more special. Trying to explain that to staff and then have them tell that to customers, and why your products are great, it's never going to happen. That's why it doesn't happen anymore. Everything's Flash. So I despise that. I hate the idea of spending, I see luxury brands, they're selling jeans or t-shirts for $1,000, $1,500. I'm like, there's nothing you can do quality wise that could justify that price. All the rest of that price is just in the Flash. And if you're interested in the Flash, sure, pay for it. But I hate it. As someone who loves product, I hate when people do that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, why does somebody buy a Bentley? To say that they have enough money to waste on a Bentley, right?
I suppose. I'm sure it rides nicely, but it's not. Yeah, it's not for me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you started off that explanation there, like saying maybe I'm doing it wrong. Like, no, you're not. Right? There's no one way to build a brand, and what I see you doing is trying to build a brand that has a long term permanence based on quality and values behind the product and the sourcing of the product that people truly care about and makes them feel better.
I think so. For me, it's about maintaining trust with your customer and, delivering high quality and value. And, if you could just do that, everything else will work. So we just have to focus always on make the best thing possible and price it for a reasonable price. Again, our products are very expensive. You can go to Costco and buy a 5-pack of t-shirts for $30. And I can tell you everything wrong with that 5-pack of t-shirts for $30, but I can also tell you, hey, you know what? $30 for 5 t-shirts is a pretty good deal. But here's what you're not paying for. And those things, if you knew about it, well, then maybe you might rethink those types of things. But, that's for the live stream.
Yep, makes sense. So, last email question for you: do you do any sort of list cleaning process? Do you have a way where you take old stale emails and take them out of your pool?
Yeah, you definitely have to do that every now and then, because of course you're charged by how many email subscribers you have on your list. So sometimes there's people who sign up with bogus emails and spam and this and that. OmniSend actually has a service where they will cleanse your list for you. It costs a couple of bucks, but every now and then when your list is 3 or 5% of what they will deem questionable emails or no good emails, you can have them wipe the list for you, and that's great. It also helps with your deliverability, because if you're sending a lot of emails that are getting bounced back and things like that, then it hurts your ability to end up in somebody's inbox. So you definitely want to make sure that you're not sending to spam accounts, things like that.
Yeah. So the OmniSend service is sounds like what they're doing is they're looking at a master list of known bad email addresses or questionable email addresses and seeing if those exist in your list and removing them for you. Is that what it's doing?
Probably what they're doing. I mean, I'm sure they have, through their entire network, they've got all kinds of information. So, known emails, known bounced emails, this kind of stuff. I'm sure they're able to capture all that in some kind of master list. And hey, we can wipe these from your list for you. Just a couple of bucks. You could figure it out yourself. There's definitely a way that you can do it yourself, but you know what? For me, time is money, and if it takes me an hour to figure it out, or if it costs me $10 to clean the list, I'm going to pay the $10 to clean the list. I got other things to do.
Oh, is it literally as cheap as $10?
Yeah, it's cheap. Yeah, it's not a lot of money.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is an absolute no-brainer. You're right. So as we wrap up our time here together, is there one piece of advice you'd want to give, other brands that are starting out and trying to build a brand like you've been pretty successful at doing?
Yeah, I mean, for me, always honesty and show the process, and don't. I was gonna say honesty, show the process, and honesty. Be honest with your customers. Be yourself. Don't try to say that you've created the ultimate anything if you haven't. Right? If it is, then talk about it all day long. If it's not, you could talk about, hey, it's a great product at a great price, great value. If you're making combs, if you're making toothbrushes, whatever it is, talk about the process and make sure that you're trying to deliver value to your customers. Trying to fool people with fluff, I think that it doesn't work in the long term. Buy now, save 50% off when that was, the entire MO from the beginning. Don't do that kind of stuff. Or do it. I don't know. Maybe you're one of these websites who's laughing at me right now and saying, no, I do it. I make millions of dollars doing that all day long. For me, I think my greatest success has come from just being honest with your customers. And it's all about honesty.
Well, that's great advice. I appreciate your time today.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
You've been listening to the Shopify Solutions podcast with Scott Austin. This podcast is brought to you by Jade Puma, a Shopify-focused agency located in San Diego, California. If you like what you heard, please leave a review and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to work with Scott on your brand, email him at scott@jadepuma.com.